Scott, how are you?
I'm good. I, I figured everybody was not was off campus anyway, so the weather wouldn't impact people as much as it might if we weren't already mostly remote.
That's right. I might as well, while we're hunkered down at home, have a conversation or two, huh? How are you doing? Are you staying warm enough?
Yes, yes.
Good, good. We see some Rosalind's come in, Laura, Sarah. Thank you all for coming. I have no idea how many people will show up, so we just bring our sack lunches and have a conversation. I look forward to getting updated on this particular topic. So how long do you think you need for your presentation? Time for Q&A? Do you want to do more round table type or what?
Well, I have a short presentation. I don't think it'll take more than 20 minutes.
Okay, cool.
But I'm going to show a few resources that people can use to find information about potential journals. And if I go out and into, and actually show how to use them, I could do that too, and that would take a little longer.
That might be helpful. We'll see what people need and want. When I said this is a brown bag lunch, I mean, literally, I was going to be eating lunch.
Yeah.
But it's not a brown bag. It's just a cup of soup. So
Yeah. I sent the link to 3 or 5 of the other librarians, so they may also join and they may have something to add as well. I don't know.
very good. I sent it to the other department heads in the College of Ed and Human Services and to all the EDD students and all our ed leadership faculty. So basically we're just going to try. I like to just have informal learning opportunities of a variety of sorts. And I know y'all do a lot of things, obviously library related. So I thought this would be a good
I
way
haven't gotten a thing lately that I would consider to be an offer from a predatory journal, and I haven't been, asked by anybody about it. So I don't know what they're doing now, but whether they're still as prevalent, and I'm just not, because I haven't done anything like that. In the past, I've been like, I did some presentation at a conference and I got a thing like, and I knew what I did is totally not appropriate to publish. I don't know why they're sending me this thing as if I have created this great, work of academia and in just over flattering terms,
Right.
So I think they just go through conference proceedings and just send out things to everybody, who's listed as a speaker.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't get as much as I used to. I still get one every once in a while. But I think they send them, I think recent doctoral graduates often get offers, so to speak, from predatory journals after they, their dissertation goes either in ProQuest or in Digital Commons, depending on their university and so forth. And, several of my graduates have, and they asked me about it, and I said, I don't know. I mean, look at it carefully. There we're getting several Several folks still have a couple of minutes to go before the top of the hour.
I've
Dr.
heard about predatory conferences too, and I did get a thing about a year ago saying that, asking me to submit this thing to a conference that was going to be on a cruise ship. I thought, well, you know, that at least if it's predatory, at least it would be fun.
Yeah, pleasant surroundings. As long as it's not the COVID cruise ship.
Yeah.
Dr. Thompson, I see. Welcome. Good to see you, Ray.
Thank you. Good to see all of you.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. Hello, everyone. Adrian, I see. Adriana, S2A _ Adriana. Am I saying your name right?
Yes, sir, Adriana. I'm a catechist too, so the S2A is the class I teach on Sundays.
Very cool. Excellent.
Hi, Sarah.
Dr. Farler,
Hi, TJ.
welcome.
Hi, Nate.
Hey, Ray, how you doing?
Oh, there's
Hi.
Dr. Templeton. How are you, Nate?
Good.
Did y'all bring your brown bag? This is a brown bag lunch. I don't have a brown bag, but I have a red cup
I
of
just
soup.
brought my bar.
Your lunch bar, nutrition bar.
I'm at the school today. We're eating Valentine cookies right now, so I probably won lunchtime.
Valentine cookies, excellent.
Adrian Leday, look at you on a Zoom call trying to kiss up. Dude, write your chapter. Come
I'm
on.
already writing and I'm waiting
Come
on the
on, man.
last 25 surveys, sir. That is all I'm waiting on.
Come on, man. Come on. We can't get you out if you don't turn it in. Come on. Let's go.
Well, a few more
Miss Sarah
people.
Morrison. How are you?
I'm good. How's it going? It's snowing where we are. Is everyone else seeing snow too, or no?
No snow yet, but it's
No
cold
snow yet?
out here.
No, it's cold.
Cold out here.
Where are you, Sarah?
I'm in Oklahoma,
Are you? What part? I used to live in Oklahoma.
southeast Oklahoma. I'm in Durant, actually.
Durant. You're
Yes,
in Durant.
Durant.
Know it well. I used to live in Claremore up in northeast Oklahoma. So. Anyway, well,
Dr.
welcome everyone.
Lancaster, or
Yeah.
as y'all say up north, you Yankees, Lancaster.
Oh, Lancaster.
Are
So
you
why
Scott?
don't, where's everyone calling in from? We don't have so many that we can't just run through real quickly. Dr. Lancaster, you're right there in Commerce, I suppose.
Yes, I'm 3 blocks from campus.
Oh yeah, very close. I'm calling in from Richardson, Texas, just north of Dallas. Dr. Thompson, you're somewhere east of me, right?
We're in Upshur County, Gilmer, Texas.
Gilmer, Texas, the big town of Gilmer.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Home of the Jamboree.
Yes, indeed.
I have marched that Jamboree parade many a time. Lord have mercy.
That's
Very
a big
good.
attraction, that band competition.
Yeah, it is.
That's important stuff.
Last time I marched, I pulled up right behind that pine tree band when TJ was superintendent over there, and I really put a whipping on that pine tree band. I'm not
You
gonna
ought to
lie.
see their campus now.
I actually was over there not long ago. Loved that
Well,
new
good.
the new high school. They built it around the band hall, which is cool.
Yeah,
Band hall was standalone. That's very cool.
yeah.
Yeah, band is the center of the universe, isn't it?
Well, it's kind of football over there, but the band is dang good.
One of these days they'll learn how to play football over there.
Woo!
All right. Adriana, where are you calling in from?
Dallas, Texas.
Dallas. Yay.
Like Dallas, across the
Dallas.
street. Richardson, across the street, Garland. So right there.
Yeah, you're not too far from me. I'm in East Richardson, almost Saxe, Wiley, and Garland, and Plano. Stone's throw from each of those practically. Adrian, where are you?
I am on my lunch break at Watson MST, the place to be, in Garland ISD. So I'm in Garland, Texas.
Excellent. Just south of me. Very good.
What he is incomplete on this chapter 5. I'm just saying, throwing it out there. Let's roll.
Adrian, when did you change schools?
I changed schools actually 2019. Well,
Okay.
I changed schools in 2017 to one school, and then I became the principal in 2019. So transition throughout.
Let me
Excellent.
see, you were at Rowlett the last time I talked to you.
Yes, sir. Through 2017. Yes, sir.
Okay, good, good.
Just down the road. TJ, Dr. Farler, where are you?
Well, Denison, Texas, just about to that Oklahoma border, Sarah, and we have ice and snow and have had since about the middle of last night. It is very cold, but having grown up in Nebraska, piece of cake.
Yeah, it's nothing. Except you get more ice here than in Nebraska. Usually it's already frozen by the time it hits the ground there.
So
All right. Let's see. Susan Kim, where are you calling in from?
Hi, I'm calling in from Dallas, ISD.
Very good. Cool. Right here, right down the road from us. Dr. Zhang, Mei Zhang, you're just north of me in McKinney, aren't you?
Yes, I mean north of part of on Dallas Fort Worth area. I mean Frisco, and it's cold and dry. But
Frisco,
kids
that's
are and kids can't wait to see the snow. Typical Texan kids, Yeah.
Right. Good, good. Let's see. We've got a few more. Please, Fatima, where are you calling in from?
Yeah, I'm in Greenville.
Oh yeah.
Fatima is a librarian as well.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Rosalind, good to see you again.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I was trying to take myself off mute. I am in Houston.
Very good.
But it's about 30 degrees, so it's not too cold, but it's raining really bad.
Oh, yuck. 30 and raining. That sounds lovely.
Yeah, not a good combination.
Not a great combination, no. I'm glad you're here. Laura Little. We're checking everyone's weather as we're going around. Location and weather. That's always interesting in days like today. Webinars. I'm going to go on to Edwina. Laura, couldn't hear you if you were on mute.
Hey guys, good afternoon. I'm Edwina Woods. I'm currently in Glen Heights, but I work for Region 10. So, and it is like Mei Jing said, it is cold and dry.
Are you actually at Region 10 right now?
No, I'm not actually at Region 10 right
okay.
now.
All right, very good. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Well, this is our first little brown bag learning session that we're just trying to coordinate out of educational leadership. So thanks for everyone for coming. This is going to be pretty informal and just topics that we think I would like to know a little bit more about. I invited Dr. Scott Lancaster from our library to talk to us about predatory journals, because I looked into it about 9 years ago and I hadn't really kept up. And I wanted to learn a bit more about what's going on, because there's also, as you will talk about, Scott, I guess, a fairly legitimate author pay journals, but then there's the predatory journals that we got to watch out for. And so tell us what you know, Scott.
Okay. Well, I'm going to share my screen, and I might ask you from time, if I move from one thing to another, might ask to make sure that you're still looking at the presentation, because I have a couple of places that I might link out to a website. I just want to make sure that it works properly. But I added the word opportunity and exploitation, because as I'll discuss, I think the word predatory has become kind of problematic and debated, and the whole issue has developed a lot since I kind of was last aware of it. I'll mention Jeffrey Beal, who you might have heard of, who had Beal's List, that was a librarian from Colorado. And he actually came here to campus and did a presentation a few years ago. And things have changed significantly since that time. But what I wanted to sort of answer or talk about was, if you get an offer, like you ask yourself, should I publish my article in a particular journal, or also should I pay article processing charges to publish in an open access journal? Or you might conversely be asked to edit an issue or to serve on an editorial board. These are examples I found on the internet, because I haven't gotten one lately that I would consider predatory or exploitative. But basically they're kind of too good to be true in some ways, but then you don't really know. I mean, it could be a startup journal that has some legitimacy behind it, or at least is not, consciously exploiting or predatory. So it's good to sort of be able to aware of what the issues are. And I can send this presentation out. I've got all of your names, and I might send these out, and you can see I've linked to everything that I'll be showing. But these have some of the hallmarks where it's not got over flattering language, or like promises that are too good to be true, like a really quick turnaround on peer review, if they even mention peer review. Also, this graphic points out one thing about, you heard the term hijack journal, where the American Journal of Educational Research is evidently really close to this well-known journal, American Educational Research Journal. That's a really common thing too, where if you see that it's a journal title that's like really close to a major well-known journal title, then that's kind of a red flag to be aware of. Or even look at the email address, like outlook.com. You would think someone who was publishing a journal, academic journal, would have actually an email address with the domain of that journal in it. The whole thing was sort of started from what I can gather, from the advent of open access publishing, which is actually a really exciting development for a lot of reasons. I think it opens up publishing to a lot more people, but also it opens the publishing up to a global community that might not be able to afford just the subscription fees or the access. It in a lot of ways it's a positive development, as well as, I don't know if y'all are aware how much money it costs for the library to get journals and to get access to journals, but it's a huge chunk of the budget. And so open access is one way of trying to change the economic model that academic publishing has come to be mired around. This is Jeffrey Beal that I mentioned. He's the one who coined the term predatory publishing. He was formerly a librarian at University of Denver. And he, in 2008, started in a blog that he had mentioning predatory, or journals that he considered predatory. You can see in 2011, he started with 18 journals in his list, and by 2016, he had 923. The blog, the list was taken down in 2017. And if when I send you this, if you want to follow any of these things, you can see about the legal threats the harassment, allegations of lack of transparency. The list is actually maintained. So even though he took it offline, and it's sort of murky about why he took it offline, but from what I've gathered from my research, I think I would say he went a little overboard in how he was classifying predatory journals, and he was mostly accurate, but there were around 20% of them that from studies that people have done that I've looked at, 20% of the things that he was flagging as predatory were not really, it might be unfair to call them that. And some of them fought back. And if you look at this Lincoln harassment, I mean, they were calling him a terrorist and an alcoholic. And I think his library and his university in Colorado he had a lot of harassment, and I think eventually he had to resign. And I'm really not sure what he's doing now. But the list is maintained by anonymous sources. They got a archive of his list, and they add to it sporadically, and so it's still up and can be found. He had a lengthy list of criteria that he came up with, but this is sort of the main things. When he saw issues with the editorial board, like multiple journals have the exact same editorial board listed, or there's a lack of geographic diversity in the editorial board. They're all from like one location. A lack of digital preservation was another thing where there really wasn't any plan or anything that he could find out where the journal was being maintained. So as soon as they would go out of business, it would theoretically just disappear, and everything that that people thought they were publishing, was not going to be available anymore. Or the misleading titles, like the hijack journals I mentioned, or false claims, which would include like really rapid peer review, or no peer review, or even no editorial oversight. If you can look at the journals and see that these things are not even like copy edited, or there's grammatical errors in them. No ISSN or DOI. Or finally, then, and one thing I can show you how to find is that it's not indexed, or it's not listed even in a standard directory. A definition of predatory publishing that came out after Jeffrey Beal had taken his down, and I like this definition because it's sort of more fair-minded. Predatory journals and publishers are entities that prioritize self-interest at the expense of scholarship and are characterized by false or misleading information, deviation from best editorial and publication practices, a lack of transparency, and/or the use of aggressive and indiscriminate solicitation practices. And that's from very recently from an article in Nature. And then I found this graphic in that article that shows Beal's list as well as Cabell, which I'll show you how we have access to that. Cabell's has a list of that sort of in some ways mirrors Beal's, but you'll see that there's a little bit of overlap, but they're very different. So if you are going to consult one of these lists, it's better to consult both of them, as well as the directory of open access journals. Cabell's, which we do have a subscription to, Beal's list, that archive version that's somewhat updated, freely available, and I've got the link to it in this presentation. Cabell's, around the time that Beal started kind of getting into hot water over and getting a lot of pushback, they started their own version of it, which they formerly were calling whitelist and blacklist. But in 2020, you know, they considered that that was sort of an insensitive terminology, so they renamed it journalytics and predatory reports. And we've got Cabell's listed in our list of databases. And I might, if in a minute, show you how to access it. But you can see kind of, you know, they've got 11,000 on their good list and 12,000 on their bad list. So it's unfortunate that most of the journals that they, you know, they identify more journals as predatory or exploitative than they do not. But they do give the journals a chance to apply to get off of that bad list. And frequently they are moved from one list to another. I've linked here to this 2017 study from Serials Review that, and kind of the highlights that I found in it, it was comparing the two lists. Like I said, Beals is free, Cabell's is subscription based, but we've got a subscription to it, so you have access to it. It found almost a third of the things that were on Beals' list are not in business anymore. So, you know, he was at least somewhat accurate with those. And a few on Cabell's list are out of business. They don't have a significant overlap. So that's why I said it would be good if you're going to consult one to consult both. Cabell's is probably more conservative or careful, especially after the, you know, having observed Beal being kind of run out of his blog business. Beal's may have been more inclusive or aggressive. So Beal, in my opinion, did in many cases err on the side of putting something on the list when really it might not have been warranted to have it on the list. Common features of a predatory or exploitative email: awkward language, which you get that in any, you know, email that's sort of fishing for money even from you, where it's not, you can tell it's written by somebody who is not really very skilled at writing, or at least maybe writing in English. It could have the hijacked journal title, where it's a title that's very close to a very popular journal, with false information, very over-flattering language, no ISSN or DOI, overly polite, persuasive, and just unrealistic, and also very urgent. You know, there's a sense of urgency, like really pushing you to decide now. These are resources that we have. I'll show you in Cabell's directories. And are y'all seeing the library page now? Rather, can you see the?
I'm seeing a page, but it's blank. Well, there it's coming in now.
Well, and you'll see at the top, if you're interested, you go in, this gray bar on the top explains why they stopped using the kind of insensitive terms blacklist and whitelist, if you're interested in reading that. And you put in a title and one, which I think is a open access. Capitalizations generally don't matter in databases, but spelling does. And so you could click here and it will, and it does tell you it's a hybrid. So it's sort of between open access, but also there's some kind of more traditional economic aspects to it. And this will give you a number of, you know, information about it. But if we, what I'm more familiar with is Ulrich's, and I use this even with print journals. And I'll show you where the kind of information you can get about a journal. Not every open access journal that is actually legitimate might be listed in Ulrich's, especially if it's new. But we'll look at you could put in any journal title. And I'm going to pick the one with the star. You want to, look through. Sometimes the words can be the same. There could be more than one journal that have got similar words in it. So you want to try to figure out the one that's published, where the one that you're looking for is being published. I always like to get my URL for the journal website from Ulrich's rather than just Googling it, because I know for sure that now I'm getting to the actual legitimate website. And I look at abstracting and indexing to see where it's being indexed. And even if it's, even if it does have peer review, if it's not indexed anywhere, then it's not, you're not going to get very much coverage out of it. So it's helpful to know where it's indexed, and that if it's being indexed by this many, well-known mainstream databases, that's a flag for, saying that it would be legitimate. And you can also determine where it's available in full text online, just to determine how wide you would be read if you published in this thing. And WorldCat, I wanted to show you how I use this, but I'm going to use a journal that I know is not peer reviewed, but it's one that I had just ordered from because I want to show you a red flag that I had found a couple of years ago in a journal that somebody, I think in the curriculum and instruction department, had asked me about. I'm going to pick title. And the journal that I was interested in, because I was European Rural History Journal. I want to go to serials because, that's what in library jargon a journal is. And what I wanted to point out, the reason I showed this is this libraries worldwide, that's how many libraries have the journal. And I can see there's only 3. So this is, hardly anybody has it. And I think they do have stuff online, but if they go out of business, then there's only going to be 3 libraries that have got copies of the stuff. And there was a questionable academic journal a few years ago that somebody was asking me about, and without even being able to determine whether it had legitimate peer review or anything, I did tell the person that was asking me that, well, nobody's going to read it. Nobody, or very few people are going to have access to it unless you send them a copy of it. So, just have that in mind, that even if they do have peer review, they don't have, nobody's really reading it. So it would basically become like vanity press. And then you're probably also familiar with journal citation reports, which is another place where you can determine, at least if the journal is listed there, it's a legitimate journal. Some free resources to know about would be Sherpa Romeo, which, well, before I go to it, it's an online resource that aggregates and analyzes open access policies. And we'll look at the educational researcher as an example. This would be where if this journal was not listed in Ulrich's and I couldn't even maybe find it in WorldCat, I could possibly find it in Sherpa Romeo. So here it is, and it tells me it's published by Sage, which would already kind of tell me that it's okay, but you can see all of the publishing, which would be something not connected with predatory journals, but I think it is important for you as you're looking at publishing to understand how that they deal with author rights and whether you retain the use of it or whether you're signing away the use of it. I mean, I've heard about a few years ago somebody that was so excited as a doctoral student to get published in a highly respected journal, only to find out they couldn't use they had published what they'd planned to include as a chapter of their dissertation, only to find out that because of the rights they'd signed away, they couldn't include that as a chapter of their dissertation anymore. So it's important to be aware of what sort of rights are given to you. And then Directory of Open Access Journals is also a similar list. This is a 1-minute video I'm going to show. Just it kind of explains in a fancier way than I could. Or it's 2 minutes, I guess.
It's important to be able to identify predatory publishers. Predatory publishers exploit the open access publishing model, a model which is based on authors and institutions paying to publish their research in response to increasing subscription fees and paywalls. When an author pays for their research to be published in an open access publication, anyone can read their work free of charge. Predatory publishers abuse this author publication fee and may not offer services traditionally considered part of the scholarly publication process. Predatory publishers often operate in predictable ways. They may offer unsolicited invitations for submission and publication, have extremely high acceptance rates, be unindexed in databases, make false claims regarding impact factor, have minimal peer review, or have repeated instances of plagiarism. If you suspect a publisher of being predatory, there are a number of steps you can take. Check the journal is eligible for inclusion in the Directory of Open Access Journals. This is the first and best source for open access publications. Check the journal's editorial board for recognized and affiliated experts. Determine the publishing fee and what you're responsible for paying. Are the articles peer reviewed? Most journals display their peer review policies online. What is the turnaround time for publishing? And does the journal guarantee publishing your article? Remember, peer review can take time. You can also attempt to independently verify the journal's claims regarding indexing and impact factor via Scopus, Directory of Open Access Journals, or Ulrich's periodical directory. A journal misrepresenting its impact factor and indexing is a red flag. Remember, there are also predatory conferences which appear like legitimate academic conferences but are exploitative by misrepresenting speakers, low attendance, charging high fees, and combining unrelated academic fields. If in doubt, contact your liaison librarian to get an additional perspective and we can work through it together. We're here to help.
And then kind of to wrap up, this is just, and this is a link as well to this website called Think, Check, Submit that kind of has a list of questions you might ask yourself, like, have you read any articles in the journal? Have you heard of it? Can you identify and contact the publisher? And really looking at the website too. Do they have like a legitimate looking website? Is it clear about peer review? Is it indexed in services that you use? Are they clear about the fees? And do you recognize? I mean, you may, if you're aware of kind of the people, if you got to know the people in your field, you may recognize a name in the editorial board of a reputable journal. look for flattering language, look for typos, grammatical errors, awkward language, telling about awkward or rapid peer review, or are they like what they're called pyramid publishing, where there's like something about you asking you to drag your colleagues into the, into the thing too. Is there full contact information, including a physical address with a that you could actually then look up on Google Maps? And basically then just, does it sound too good to be true? Ask your, when you wonder, ask your colleagues, ask people, in your, that are in conferences that you may have contact with, or associations. And you can always, come to the library or contact one of us in the library, and we will be glad to help you. I mean, it hasn't been late. I haven't been contacted lately, but I have gone through, with someone who has a question. We'll look it up in, Ulrich's, we'll look it up in WorldCat, we'll look it up in one or the other. I think it's better I think that you can use those lists like Cabell's had, and you can still use Beale's list, but I think ultimately it's better if you know how to do the research yourself. I guess it's sort of related to the whole issue with news and, news that we read, and you need to really be able to figure out for yourself whether what you're looking at is legitimate or not. But that's all I had. If anybody have any questions, we can, or some, experience you want to relate that might be connected to this.
Just unmute and ask your questions. It's a lot more complicated than it seems on the surface, isn't it?
Or you can put them in chat if you don't want to,
It's kind of overwhelming starting in the whole doctorate program, and it's like, oh my gosh, there's so much in so many places that it's hard to know where to start sometimes. So this really helped. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this for us. It kind of makes us ease our way through it.
And I think all of these things that we looked at, I think you should use them even when it's a reputable journal, that, because I think that you need to understand your rights as an author, and what you're signing away or what you might negotiate, because that's a big issue as well.
So is there ever a place that you can publish that would allow you to publish somewhere else, or that's like the usual? Because I know I've been published once and they're like, well, you can't use it anywhere else, and it's like,
no,
so there are places?
Yeah, there are, and you can negotiate that as well. I mean, a frequent thing I've heard is where they will, somebody has an institutional repository where they teach, and they want to put their article in that as well as publish it, and that can be often negotiated. Sometimes they will say, put the initial submission draft before they've sent it back to you for any, corrections or whatever. You can put that in your repository, but the copy edited and peer reviewed version is solely for publication in their journal. But it's all, up for negotiations. But once you sign and, send your thing in, then you don't have any more negotiation power.
Thank you.
So one of the things that I learned is that some people think that if it is open access, then it's not peer reviewed, and there's all these overlapping characteristics and categories. And I have found personally that some of at least one of the open access journals. I had something published in it. It was really rigorous peer review, and it's sponsored by, it's a journal sponsored by a university, so they provide the, you know, the salaries of the people who manage it. And
I think that they've really, you know, the reputable journals have put a lot of effort into establishing their peer review, and because I know 10 years ago or so, I was hearing a lot about, as you know, among people who were pushing for open access and wanted it to, you know, thought it would be a really good step, because it all depended on whether tenure, you know, a person who was applying for tenure would be able to use these publications for that. And if you had, especially, you know, older people on a tenure committee who were unsure, you know, about this new open access and thinking it's vanity publishing or whatever, and so people were reluctant in many cases to publish in open access journals because they weren't sure whether it would, you know, then get them the benefit they wanted when they applied for tenure. But I think that it's sort of moved away from that now. I think that we've got more people who are on those tenure committees that understand that that there can be rigorous peer review in these journals.
now for graduate students who are looking for reliable, solid evidence from reliable sources, how does this, the knowledge of there are actually vanity presses or predatory, whatever, journals that don't have very high standards as far as peer review, if they have it at all, and or you know, even copy editing sometimes, right?
Well, I think, you know, that if someone is going to want to build a reputation, you know, as a respected researcher, that you need to start at the beginning, and that means looking at, and I mean, I would probably tell someone, if you just want to get it out, you know, to where people, I'd be better to put it in ResearchGate or something rather than publish it in some journal that you're going to be embarrassed about being connected to later.
I just want to share some of my thoughts on probably more for our doctoral students, because I feel like, you know, we're more in the practitioner field. So when we publish, it's very probably less likely you're going to publish in those major, you know, very prestigious, you know, journals, for example, Educational Researcher, you know, those type of more like theoretical based, you know, oriented journals. So more likely you're going to publish at the, you know, the journals more likely for practitioners. So I think it is very important to check out whether in which database they are indexed in. I think that's very important. And second is to look at their peer review process to make sure they do have the double-blind peer review process going on. So and sometimes whether it's paid to publish or not may not be the only criterion, but I think the peer review journal and whether it's indexed, you know, in certain database, I think those are more important. Of course, check out the editorial board. I think that's normally the first thing I would check out, and to see where they come from, you know, whether they do have a standard, you know, protocol in terms of providing such information. I think that is very important. So more journal information you see, you know, you'll have a better sense of deciding whether this is a good journal or not.
And that information should be easy to find on their website. The harder
Right.
it is to find, the bigger a red flag it would be.
Right. Right. And some journals you can tell that, you know, it's sponsored through, or it's enlisted under the big publishing companies. But some journals, they are sponsored by universities. And those, for example, there are certain journals also sponsored by certain associations that are specialized in certain area. For example, I write a lot of online learning articles. So there's a very big, you know, the online learning consortium organization, and they have their own journal. And I would consider those are pretty, you know, good journals, but they are not really enlisted under certain, I don't know, they may be, but the first information I say that, you know, it's associated with that, you know, big association. So yeah, if you go to the website, you can find out all the information.
I think that Cabell's and their journalytics, what they used to call the white list, will allow people to submit reports on journals, and they also will allow journals to correct anything, you know, that especially if they're, you know, have something negative about them. So I think if it is a journal that is like starting out or that is not well known, that there are ways that the value of it can be communicated through Cabell's. So I think Cabell's would be an important thing, and I think it would be important then for people to submit to that if they want to promote a journal that maybe needs more recognition, you know, because you know, in this new model of publishing, while there's always these kind of pirates or the, you know, people that are being predatory, there are, you know, legitimate, well-meaning groups that are trying to get something started that may end up having a lot of value, and that there needs to be a way for that to be recognized and nurtured.
I've heard of folks listed on an editorial board of a journal who said, I have nothing to do with that journal. Take my name off that list. It's like they go out and just find names on the web and add them to their editorial board to make themselves look more legitimate.
I think they pull out names from conference proceedings too.
Yeah. And some will describe a peer review process that doesn't really happen. So they'll just, they know the keywords to put on their, you know, publishing process. But if you look at the quality of their articles, sometimes it's like, I don't think this went through much peer review, because peer review does typically improve the quality.
You know, even from the consumer side of it, I read stories about people who were turning to these journals for medical information about health crises that they were having, and they were getting, you know, inaccurate information from these journals where it hadn't been through a peer review process, and that's very dangerous, you know, for the public.
Would you say that they're predatory journals if they're reaching out? I've had a few journals reach out to me to be a peer for a peer review process, kind of randomly, and so I just kind of disregarded it because I didn't think it was legitimate. But I appreciate the direction on exactly where to check to make sure. But I mean, is that something that they do to get peers for peer review? Because they'll go, hey, why don't you come help us peer review this, you know, this article or whatever it is, and they would send it to me on my Texas A&M Commerce email. So I just thought that was something to ask about, actually.
It is a red flag, and I would probably consider that predatory until I proved it otherwise. But I think that it's possible that it's not, you know, I mean, if it's something that is appealing to you, you know, or that you might, I think it's worth it to look into it further, but I would definitely be cautious.
Any other questions, comments, experiences? Well, Scott, thank you so much for talking to us for this time. Thanks for everyone for carving out a little time on your lunch time. Send me if you want any ideas for these kind of lunch and learn or brown bag sessions. I'll put my email over here. Most of you have it anyway, but we'll try to do several more. And Scott, if you think of some other topic that could be useful for faculty, grad students, et cetera,
okay,
let me know. We'll have another conversation. I do appreciate you doing this. It was good. And the lunch was good too. Thanks for providing lunch. Oh, y'all didn't get any lunch?
Be sure and contact one of us at the library if you have any questions about this. We'll be glad to help. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. It's good to see you.